In shadow play, artisans stay behind the scenes and manipulate leather puppets with their fingertips to tell stories on the screen. In a theatrical play, actors face the audience directly, interacting with props and scenery using light and shadow to convey emotions. Note: the image on the left is sourced from Wikipedia. As a highly comprehensive art form, numerous elements in a theatrical play each embody their own unique artistic charm. The artist Polaris cherishes a peculiar interest in the scenery within theatrical plays. He thinks that the scenery serves as the foundation that supports other elements. Note: the image on the left is sourced from Wikipedia. In fact, Polaris was inspired by a theatrical scenery case long ago and desired to incorporate the concept into his work. The preview of What is Virtual Art, released months ago, presented an ideal opportunity. Thus, over the weekends of the past few months, he created the following works. Polaris chose a vertically extended spatial form to construct a scene full of a sense of storytelling. He used a narrow door crack to guide the line of sight, and this particular viewing posture also became an integral part of shaping the scene. In a theatrical play, using an object to represent a person is a creative and artistically expressive technique. The extra latitude for interpretation occasionally makes the audience feel more engaged during the process of appreciating the work. The selected architectural style might be related to Polaris's experience of playing the creative mode in Minecraft during his middle school years. At that time, he was fascinated by Chinese traditional architecture and bought professional books with historical building blueprints. In fact, in these creations, Polaris borrows a special technique widely used in the field of theatrical scenery. That is, accelerated perspective. If you step into this scene, you will discover the peculiarity. Behind this door, the dark parts and the light parts are respectively in two completely different perspective relationships. When they are intertwined in the same frame, the difference between the two will be even more noticeable. If you look out of these frames, the scenes seem to be both the scenery outside the window and miniature landscapes. Stringing these static moments together along the timeline, they seemingly jointly compose a story of rise and fall. Without the accelerated perspective, the architectural elevations of those scenes would look like this. The gate is about 3 meters high, and the building is about 38 meters deep. Such a scene, with its vertical depth far exceeding the width, is way beyond stage proportions. However, after applying the accelerated perspective, the depth of the buildings in the distance has been shortened by more than 3 times. This creates a highly 3D spatial effect within the limited stage space, making the viewers feel as if they are in a real and profound scene. Baldassare Peruzzi was one of the first people to apply this accelerated perspective to theatrical scenery. He was a renowned Italian architect and painter during the Renaissance period. Note, if you view it with one eye from the right spot, there's barely any difference between these two. This is a scene wall, a traditional Chinese architectural element for blocking views, often adorned with relief carvings for aesthetic appeal. These carvings are shallow, usually just a few centimeters deep, creating a sense of depth through subtle contours and play of light and shadow. The 4 Chinese characters, Yibu Wan Jing, on the plaque above the relief mean in Chinese, gardens. Different views unfold as one walks. Approaching the relief head-on, it's fascinating to see Polaris applying this concept. Did the interactive experience of stepping into a painting surprise you? At the very least, it certainly amazed its creator, Polaris. After researching the accelerated perspective, Polaris coded an algorithm that can calculate not only static deformations, but also dynamic changes. From architecture to theatrical scenery and interactive experience, the accelerated perspective frequently appears in cross-border practices. Despite not having an art background, Polaris, a graduate student in engineering, combines research prowess with creative enthusiasm, forging a unique path in interdisciplinary integration. Visual images are used for narration in both dynamic performances like shadow play and theatrical play, and in static media in the form of illustrations. As an illustrator, Lee Tianzi delights in experimenting with all sorts of novel ideas and endeavors to create and express himself as freely as possible. Although Tianzi has loved painting since childhood, he finally followed his parents' advice and chose architecture as his undergraduate major. Luckily, architecture's comprehensive and creative characteristics let him keep expressing himself through painting. As an architecture student, Tianzi draws inspiration from buildings in diverse scenarios, such as travels, books, and games. Moreover, when creating, he not only captures the characteristics of these buildings, but also incorporates creative elements into his illustrations. Tianzi once launched a creative activity named Paint Your Space. He carefully encapsulated the life stories and delicate emotions shared by netizens within these unique cubes. Thereby, he made 3D spaces that carry memories' distinctive emotional containers. In addition to his practice in terms of content, Tianzi has also been constantly exploring in terms of form. In this illustration, the form he used to enhance the depth effect is derived from a type of children's toy book known as a tunnel book. A tunnel book creates depth and 3D effects by stacking and cutting multiple paper layers, making the viewers feel they're peering through a tunnel to distant scenery. It's a special kind of pop-up book, also known as a peep show book. Note, the image on the left is sourced from Wikipedia. If a tunnel book can be in a linear shape, why can't it be in a circular shape? Making use of the characteristics of the circular shape, Tianzi created this 3D illustration with elements of planets and space. Not only did Tianzi integrate 2D illustrations into a 3D space, but he also incorporated the element of motion during the creative process. When this 3D illustration starts to rotate, more interesting results emerge. This effect of creating animation through rotation resembles a traditional lantern called zoetrope. Specifically, the zoetrope uses the rising hot air to drive the impeller to rotate, so that the patterns are displayed in sequence, creating a dynamic scene. After getting familiar with the characteristics of the tunnelbook form, Tianzi created more 3D illustration works. When the viewing angle changes, the picture will also undergo subtle changes. While interacting with the viewers, it creates a stronger sense of immersion. During his postgraduate studies, Tianzi still majored in architecture, and his illustration works often revolved around architecture. The series of works presented in this exhibition hall are all themed on Chinese traditional architecture. Tianzi completed the process of creating these 3D illustrations on an iPad. He used Procreate to separately draw the images at different depths and then arrange them on a 3D canvas in Mental Canvas. After earning his master's degree, Tianzi explored the jobs at architectural design institutes. However, he didn't think it was the career he wanted to pursue in the next few decades. On the other hand, he clearly realized that painting was a career he was more interested in, better at, and would also be socially recognized. So, he decided to become an illustrator. In addition to painting, Tianzi also demonstrated a sustained interest and talent in video shooting and production. Over the past few years, he has been consistently making videos, publishing the creative processes and results on video platforms. In Tianzi's video channel, he not only showcases his creativity, but also shares the methods and techniques he has summarized. His excellent aesthetic taste and sharing spirit have enabled his videos to gain more than 1 million followers within just a few years. Painting has always been Tianzi's hobby, and after many years, it has ultimately become his career. As an independent illustrator and creative blogger, his work intensity is considerable. However, Tianzi values the chance to carry out creative work autonomously most. Tianzi still maintains the habit of obtaining creative inspiration from life. This series of 3D illustrations with the theme of Chinese traditional architecture was exactly created by him after being inspired by a video game. At the edge of this artwork, there is an element of a scroll. It implies that all these scenes are part of the same story. And this is exactly one endpoint of this story. It could be the ending, or it could just as well be a starting point. Since they originate from the same story, they can be strung together to form a memory. A memory composed of 3D illustrations might bring about a special experience. In addition to being able to string together different scenes vertically, 3D illustrations are also used by Tianzi in long scrolls with a horizontal composition. This technique of giving the picture depth and a 3D effect through layering is also often borrowed by the production teams in side-scrolling games. This 3D illustration in the form of a long scroll painting draws on the scattered point perspective commonly used in hand scroll paintings. This form enables the combination of scenes from different times and spaces, jointly creating a narrative. It is just like a static montage. Pop-up books and hand-scroll paintings, these classic art forms that span time and space, still serve as a source of inspiration for creators today. Li Tianzi, an avid painter, skillfully absorbs the essence of classic art and frequently creates 3D illustration works that possess both visual impact and cultural heritage.